How old do you believe that someone should be before they actually have the transition surgery? Hey Tammy, so I assume when you say transition surgery, you mean something of the sorts of a gender reassignment surgery? So an example of vaginoplasty, vulvoplasty, or orchiectomy in trans women, or top surgery, vaginectomy, hysterectomy, or phalloplasty in trans men. So I fully believe that someone should have to be 18 years or older to have any sort of gender reassignment surgery or gender affirmation surgery. And I do not at all agree with the idea that some states are imposing the 25 plus age limit, because I know far too many people who by the age of 25 would have already taken steps to end their own life. I very much believe that any type of gender confirmation or affirmation surgery is considered life-saving, in the way that surgeries offer you a way to bringing your form to a much closer representation of what your brain is already telling you that you are, or more so in line with the body that you would have if both your brain and body matched at birth. Now, according to the 2022 US Trans Survey, only about 25% of us actually go through and have at least one surgery. And then only about 49 to 50% of us actually get on hormone replacement therapy at some point. And that's a pretty accurate number because they did ask 84,000 transgender adults, as well as 8,100 16 to 17-year-olds. And for clarification and research purposes, I will include the 110-page study in the description and the comment section below. And I also believe that whether you are 18, 19, 20, 50, or 70 years old, after your surgery, if you have it, unless of course you're in recovery or you're not interested in it, you deserve a glass of wine. I believe that because the amount of trauma that is associated with surgery that I personally will be going through with my own gender reassignment surgery later this year in November when I'm 31 years old. Because according to the research that I've done and the people who have experienced it for themselves, they've described it to something akin to childbirth. In most other countries, you can drink at 18. In our own country, you can fight for our country. You can smoke, you can get a prostitute, you can get a job. And if you're able to do all those things, I believe you should be able to go under the knife, under anesthesia, and have your gender reassignment surgery. Now, I've never personally seen or heard about anyone who has been able to get gender reassignment surgery less than a year from the time of starting hormones, especially in youth. It's pretty typical to expect between 3 and 5 years on average from the time that someone begins hormones to the time that they have a gender reassignment surgery or some sort of confirmation surgery. But that timeline only applies to people who have good insurance, a good job, and the ability to take time off of work to recover from surgery. It doesn't include people who are considered low income, and typically in red states, and the typical median age of someone who gets gender reassignment surgery is about age 29. It's not 18, it's not 19, it's not 20, just the general median age is 29. When it comes to hormones, someone under the age of 18 should have access to both puberty blockers and hormones after a time, because after being on puberty blockers for such a time, it starts to affect your bone density and bone strength. And the idea of just having no hormones in your body at all causes extreme fatigue. And not to mention trans men, when they start taking testosterone, it throws them into menopause. And while there is a very long history of the use of puberty blockers, especially in girls who get their cycle way too young, or in children who are just gaining height so much quicker than their peers, and it's a way to slow their height down. In 2009, when I was about 14 years old, I was actually interested in testosterone therapy because I was so far behind in terms of development as all the other kids. Now, there was someone that actually was in my class that did get on testosterone therapy, and he was just a little bit shorter than me, and because of the therapy, he actually shot up to over 6 feet tall. So like he like that tall now. And he actually has a child. Because introducing hormone therapy at such an age, he was able to get those rotors moving and his development on track. And I believe in that in the same way that a transgender teenager should be able to transition. And because I believe the idea that cisgender boys and cisgender girls should be able to use hormone therapy, I just as much believe transgender boys and transgender girls being able to use hormone therapy. For the exact same reason, to be happy with their bodies, to have control over their bodies, and their futures. I'm also a very firm believer that a child should be able to change their pronouns 15, 20, 30 times, should be able to socially transition, wear the clothes that make them feel comfortable, or anything that involves transitioning, because the alternative is much more scarier. I'd much rather support them than have a dead child. But I also understand that I'm not a parent and that parents choose to parent the way they are going to choose to parent. With that being said, one of the most main criteria of being a child who is transgender in the United States of America is going to at least 6 months of psychotherapy, or just therapy for short. And they also have to attend these therapy sessions with at least one parent. Therapy does continue throughout their entire transition, with blood work being done every 3 months in the very beginning. Because every single person who is going through hormone therapy or surgeries has to go along with the WPATH, the World Professional Association of Transgender Health, which is backed up by a research team as well as studies, hard physical science, with very strict guidelines for ages, dosages, and where exactly your levels should be as far as your blood hormone levels, how much of a certain hormone you can take. I remember them taking blood every 3 months for the first year of my transition, and then switching over to 6 months in my second year, and then it went from 6 months to 1 year, because they want to be exactly sure that they are not overdosing you or underdosing you. And as far as diagnoses go, I was originally diagnosed with gender identity disorder, GID. This was in August, September 2015, before they changed the criteria to be gender dysphoria. But the only thing you can be diagnosed with today in 2026 is gender dysphoria, because in 2019, the term gender identity disorder was deleted from the DSM-5. And so when they got rid of GID, I was naturally brought up to gender dysphoria. So there you go, Tammy, as well as gals, guys, and everybody in between. There's your answer. Before I do go, I do want to mention that I am one person. So included in this video is both my experience and others' experiences. And since I've been a part of this community for the past 11 years, it's all information I've gathered in that time, as well as anecdotes and things I've noticed while transitioning myself. And before you leave, make sure to hit that follow button or subscribe button on YouTube. I encourage you to repost this video, share with your friends, post on your Facebook, as well as like, heart, or favorite. And I would love it if you left a comment as well. My name is Andrea, also known as Trans Girl Meets World. And you gals, guys, and everybody in between are the world. And it was absolutely amazing meeting you for the first time or yet again. Love, Andrea.